for live events. Now today we're going to cover three key areas. The first being what exactly is the metaverse, the next being how brands are already activating in the space, and then finally what it means for the live event sector. Now, before we kick off, as a quick introduction, I'm Max Gethin. I work at brand experience agency and events agency Matter, and I've been working in the events industry for almost all of my career, and I'm very excited to be here with you guys today in person, finally, after 18 months of no events. So before we kick off, a quick show of hands for the live audience. Who here understands exactly what the metaverse is? Not many hands at all. So I'm going to level with you and be totally honest. I'm not completely sold on it either, so I'm not here to sell you the idea of the metaverse. What I am here to do is to share the research we've been doing at Matter, share some knowledge, insights, and hopefully give you all a better understanding for the opportunities for brands and our industry. Now, I'd like to set a kind of soft goal for today, and for all of those who didn't raise their hands, I'd like to give you all a better understanding of the metaverse, and I'll check in with you at the end today. Sound good? Right, so let's get cracking. What actually is the metaverse? Well, it depends who you ask, and it's a challenge because it doesn't actually truly exist yet. You ask the Oxford Dictionary, what is the metaverse? It has no idea. But the term was first coined in Neil Stephenson's novel Snow Crash in 1992. And within that, the concept blends digital and physical existence. And that's not far from what we're discussing today. So to help understand it fully, let's look at where we've come from since the birth of the internet. So Web 1.0 was the birth of the internet, and that was the first iteration, giving us unprecedented access to information at rapid speeds. We then fast forward to the early 2000s, and that was the birth of social media. And that saw the connection of people from around the globe and the birth of many common companies such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and others who might have died as MySpace. And then third is Web 3.0, which is the metaverse, where we're connecting people, places, and objects in an immersive and interactive way. Still not sure? I don't blame you. So one of the best definitions I've been able to come up with for the metaverse is that it's an evolution of how users interact with brands, content, experiences, and each other on the internet. And this is made up of a persistent, interoperable, shared 3D virtual environment that's enhanced by a VR and AR. Expanding on this, it's essentially a 3D World Wide Web filled with users and avatars that can jump seamlessly between experiences from one to the next, regardless of the platform. So it won't matter whether you're on a PC or Mac, on Google or Microsoft or PlayStation or Xbox. They're all linked. And what you can do is jump very seamlessly between experiences. So you could be playing Fortnite with your mates in one moment, then watching Netflix with your girlfriend the next, finish off a presentation for work, and then straight over to a car dealership where you'll be driving a virtual rendition of the exact replica in the real world. Mark Zuckerberg has put it as this: it's not about engaging with the internet more, it's about engaging with the internet more naturally. I'm not sure I totally agree with that first step, because it feels like we're one step away from being in Ready Player One and two steps away from a full Matrix-style integration. But the second is around making it more human, and I do agree with that, and making the internet and the metaverse more natural to engage with through natural movements such as hand gestures, sight, sound, and also then how we kind of engage with the metaverse as well. So with this in mind, the metaverse has possibilities in a huge range of areas, such as work and business. So work from home isn't going anywhere, neither are virtual meetings. So you might find yourself dialing into a shared global virtual 3D office rather than static Zoom calls before you even know it. Next is entertainment. So entertainment and digital entertainment is already across so many areas. We're looking at gaming, music, theatre, art, culture, sport, you name it. And it's been accelerated over the last 18 months. But think about how many people watch the footy on the weekend on TV. Now imagine dialing in with 60,000 other people in a virtual stadium and all interacting together, being able to give your mate a high five when you score a goal. Or imagine visiting the Louvre from your sofa and having a live chat with the curator at the museum itself. And then entertainment is inherently social as well. So we've all been virtually socializing for the last 18 months, and you only need to look in the gaming industry to see the power of online community and the power of building relationships through online. And the metaverse will just make this better, more seamless, and more human. Fast forward to retail and digital commerce, and we've already seen the online shopping boom. Feels like I've got Amazon packages waiting outside my door every single day. But we have all made the mistake of buying some jeans that are perhaps too snug, and what the metaverse will allow us to do is try the exact replica of jeans, clothing, or whatever on an exact replica of ourselves in avatar form. No more returns to ASOS, John Lewis, or wherever you get your clothes from. And then underpinning all of this is live experience. And by definition, the metaverse must respond in real time, just like live events. It's essentially an always-on event. Pretty mind-blowing, right? Well, what I can tell you is this is already happening, and there are a number of people already building this. So this was probably an image you're all familiar with from last week, and unless you've been living under a rock, we've all seen that Facebook is rebranding to Meta, and they're investing heavily to become the metaverse company. Now, I'm going to stay away from the controversy and ethics around Facebook and focus really on their vision and mission for the metaverse, which is what they've called the most important experience of all, and that is connecting people. What they've done is committed over 10,000 people to develop the metaverse in Europe and are already investing heavily in VR with platforms such as Oculus and are expected to invest over $10 billion in the metaverse this year. Now, hot off the press, just 3 days ago, Microsoft also announced that they're in the race to build the metaverse, and they're doing this inside Teams. So this seems much more a B2B and B2E project where avatars can be beamed up into Teams which are enhanced by AI voice recognition, and they animate your avatars in real time, as we can see right up here. Now, another application Microsoft are using is that virtual 3D workspace, as I mentioned before, and they're actually already experimenting with this, and we've seen brands like Accenture already building virtual campuses and working on them already. As I mentioned in the definition, interoperability is at the core of the metaverse. And much like the internet isn't owned by one single company, there will be many, many companies and players who are building the metaverse, including some familiar brands such as NVIDIA, who want their Omniverse platform to power some of the underlying framework as a software maker Unity. Game developers such as Roblox, which is the closest platform we actually have to the metaverse already, and they went public earlier this year and were valued at $38 billion, showing that there is a huge, huge appetite for the metaverse. Producers like Epic Games also, who they produce Fortnite, and they also own Unreal Engine, which we've all been experimented in the events industry to develop virtual events, and they will continue to build these 3D virtual environments. These are just a few, and the list is extensive and massive. But underlying all these companies is how we as humans interact with the content in a new and exciting way. But that being said, VR and AR are not new technologies, and though they've come a long way in developing over the last kind of 10 years, they are still not quite there within mass adoption, but they will be massive when engaging with the metaverse. VR will of course be the most immersive way, and AR I believe will be the most common, as we've seen with the mobile internet. Haptics and sensors, again, very much in that development phase, but they will be the bridge between that digital and physical and the key to unlocking interactivity and a response system. 5G will enable us to access the metaverse remotely from anywhere at rapid speeds, and some even believe the metaverse will be the savior of 5G, and then underlying all of this and the economic backbone of the metaverse will be blockchain, allowing us to buy, sell, and trade within the space. But all of this is just creating a playground for brands. So what does it mean for brands? Well, the metaverse will play a huge role in how people access brands, try products, and consume content. And this is everything from virtual clothing to NFTs to massive live events to always-on retail experiences. And there have been loads of examples of brands already experimenting in this space. And to highlight what they've already been doing, we've selected 3 key ways that they're activating. Now, The first is branded experience or branded characters or spaces within existing games. The next is digital goods for avatars and NFTs. And the final one is bespoke brand-owned spaces, so creating their own customized virtual worlds. Now, some brands lend themselves more naturally to Metaverse, and the majority of these are consumer-led campaigns. But the number of B2B examples are numerous as well. So first, looking at branded characters or spaces within existing games. So firstly, Deliveroo. Deliveroo is a great example of essentially connecting the virtual and real world. So what they did was send a virtual fleet of riders within Animal Crossing to deliver virtual treats, and then they paired this with promo codes within real life for people to be able to access the brand and true to their real world offering. The O2 recreated their iconic venue in Fortnite and hosted a live gig with band Easy Life. And Wendy's was a great example of brands entering the space, leveraging a very organic and natural way into the market. So for this specific case study, they recreated their brand mascot in the game, and they went around killing all the freezers, as in refrigerators, in the space, because they figured out that the fictional restaurant Der Burger were storing their beef in freezers. Now, this was acting to, I guess, push their fresh, never frozen slogan, and actually their social media mentions went up 119%, and they won 8 Cannes Lions for this earlier this year. Next is looking at digital goods for avatars and NFTs. Now, digital goods for avatars are viewed as the first mega opportunity for brands due to the seemingly endless possibilities to clothe and style avatars. And we're already seeing direct-to-avatar strategies in place in marketing strategies. Now, a great example of this is Gucci, who's launched their digital collection in Roblox, and they were able to clothe virtual characters and avatars within that, and they sold a virtual handbag for $4,000. Hendrix Gin is a company that we worked with, and that was to launch a bespoke set of NFTs to the press and public, with all the proceeds then being taken back and put into the arts. And then finally, the NBA have tapped into that age-old consumer behavior of collecting and trading sports memorabilia, but all on an NFT platform. Finally, looking at brand-owned spaces. Now, BMW Joytopia was an entirely bespoke virtual world BMW created for IAA mobility. Customers could create their own personalized avatars, explore BMW content, and then they could tune into an exclusive Coldplay concert. All of this enhanced the in-person experience, but then also reached a mass audience virtually as well. Balenciaga Afterworld. This might be a case study that many are familiar with, but they launched their Summer 21 collection inside their own bespoke video game. And though this was quite a passive experience, but where users kind of explored the space, it's one that we can expect to see more of, and we can see much more improvement. And they have just released their autumn collection in a very similar style. And then last but not least is Ralph Lauren. Now, this is essentially digital replicas of their stores in London, New York, and LA, where people can browse products and purchase them in store. But the question is, where does this leave live events, or to be known as massive interactive live events? So miles will become more commonplace, and they're essentially a single simulation with large amounts of users who are interacting with a single space at the same time, or basically event. So far, Miles have been relatively game-based, so looking at the Fortnite Travis Scott example, or Lil Nas in Roblox. But the BMW Joytopia example is a bespoke version as well. But how we start planning an event in the Metaverse is very similar to how we would start planning an event in real life. We first look at the audience, whether it's B2B, B2C, B2E, what type of event of it. Is it a conference, a consumer experiential campaign? Is it a product launch? And then also looking at, of course, your objectives and KPIs. But to illustrate what this means for live events, I've broken it into virtual events and then hybrid and in-person. So first, virtual events, and the first point on here is shared human experiences. So this has been we've all seen the great success that virtual events has been, but the challenge has been making them more human, authentic, connecting with each other, and that networking piece has been massively, massively lost. But with the metaverse, all of these person-to-person interactions will feel more real, personal, and ultimately reward you better. Next is elevated online content, and we can expect content to vastly improve, becoming much more memorable and less static. Gone will be 2D Zoom presentations, and the content options are endless. Next is the increased accessibility and inclusivity, and as I mentioned before, the metaverse will be hardware agnostic. So anybody from anywhere will be able to dial in and engage with the experience, each other, and the content. Of course, sustainability plays a big role in the virtual world, and just like virtual events, the metaverse will have a much smaller carbon footprint than in person. And then finally, this topic is of course a whole nother talk. But the ability to capture, analyze, and continually improve our experiences through data will ultimately make metaverse events as trackable as digital marketing. Now, looking at hybrid and in-person events, and one of the big challenges, or one of the challenges we kind of predicted at the start, was bridging that gap between virtual and in-person audiences. And let's face it, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to sit in a Zoom call at a real live event. And what the metaverse will allow us to do is create a more authentic bridge between the virtual and in-person audiences, even more so with haptics later on. Then looking at AR demos that you experience at an event. So an event, for example, like this, you could have an AR demo, go back home, revisit that demo, and experience the exact same thing at home. Then again, content and AR will massively enhance in-person content. So for example, we've seen all of the success with XR Studios, right? So imagine me today being able to have an AR overlay instead of this 2D presentation where I could swipe across here, beam stuff up to you. It could be an amazing, amazing experience. Looking at then budget, and as with hybrid currently, it's not 2 for 1, and honestly, I think the budgets when recreating the metaverse will be massive. So as we progress, the budgets will go down, the technology will become cheaper and easier, but initially these will be expensive experiences. And then, is it a replacement for in-person events? Personally, I don't think so, but perhaps I'm too old. I believe the metaverse will only enhance these interactions. So, in summary, the metaverse will revolutionize how we interact with the internet and how we interact with each other across all aspects of life, from work, entertainment, socializing, e-commerce, and live experiences. Brands are already activating in the space and will continue to do so in a really engaging and immersive way. The metaverse will humanize and elevate virtual events, and as well as supporting and enhancing hybrid and in-person, but it will not replace live events, but will be an evolution of the industry and may well eat into in-person event budgets. In conclusion, there is a long path to walk with a lot of R&D and innovation to come, but the possibilities are endless, exciting, and also a little terrifying. So just before we kind of thank you all, I just want to see a hands up. Who knows a little bit more about the metaverse today? Well, that's everybody in the in-person audience. So thank you very much. I'm Gethin, and I'd like to chuck it to you guys for any kind of questions now.